reveals all.
I really want to start. I watched all of season 2. I just want to say you guys did a great job. So one of the things about season 2 is that you guys really embraced the whole in a way that, and the mineral, if you will, in a way that season 1 did not. When you came in as the new showrunner, was it your sort of mandate to do this, or were you sort of telling Prime Video, we should really do this?
You know, it's always a discussion, right? And so they were like, look, we have this great show, and we kind of want to push the narrative. And so, you know, when you look at a show like this, especially when it's combining genres and things like that, and following so many different directions, you kind of have an open door to continue to follow what's there, or to also expand on things. So with, you know, things like the mineral and what the whole was and what the whole could do, that was all open space to explore. And in those initial conversations, I was like, you know, let's play Wouldn't It Be Cool? And it was like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? And they were like, yeah. And so they kind of leaned into what me and the writers were sort of throwing back and forth with each other.
When you were laying track for season 2 and figuring out the ultimate arc, how much, because Josh told me previously that he was thinking this could be a 3-season show, and now I spoke to him today and he's like, well, it could be more. He seems pretty happy. So how much were you sort of thinking where it's all going to go, and how much you sort of fuck it, let's just do season 2 and we'll figure out season 3 if we get to make it?
Let's just figure out season 2, because you know, like anything, you can lay a lot of groundwork, and one story change, one actor changing, one actor, you know, suddenly having a breakout, it can change everything. So, you know, we had to figure out what these 7 episodes were before we could start talking about any season that was coming after. So it was like season 2. Now, you know, we had a board where we would go, you know what would be good? And you throw it up on the board and you forget about it if it's you know, far down the line. But we were focused on season 2.
It's 7 episodes this season. So I'm just curious, was that story based? Was that because Prime Video was looking for 7? How did you decide on 7?
They said to me at the beginning, you can tell 8, you can tell 7, you can tell whatever you feel the story will fit, right? And so once we you know, started breaking each episode, when we reached where we reached for 7, I was like, I think we've gone as far as we should go for this one. So you know, they were open, and you know, but you know, you know, it's funny because I was watching an interview with Josh from a couple of years ago, and he was like, you know, the great thing about streaming is you can do 8 episodes, you can do 6 episodes, you can do 10 episodes, and that kind of thing. So we didn't feel like we were shortchanging people, but I felt like if we had tried to push it beyond the point where we were, we would have maybe we would have taken a misstep that would have backfired.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of showrunners, and they talk about how the studio says you can do any amount of episodes you want, but here's your budget. So you decide what you want to do.
We had a great budget. I'm not even gonna lean into that. We had a great budget, but sometimes you just, you know, having worked on 22 episode shows, 13 episode shows, 7 episode, 8 episode, you kind of feel it when you know you've told enough for this period of time.
Also, it ends in a really good place. We'll get into that in about a second. But I'm curious, how did the show possibly change in the editing room in ways you didn't expect going in?
Not much. We laid the groundwork very strongly and I think there were, if I'm being honest, I think there were times when we may have rejiggered some stuff within an episode, but we never went, oh my God, we got to do something different. We pretty much stuck to what we wrote.
I want to do some spoilers with you. This will all run after the show is out. So one of the things I really dug is how you showed a Native American reservation, like you played with time and you played with the whole. So talk a little bit about how you decided where you wanted to go with in time.
My day-to-day folks at Amazon Current are friends of mine, and we had worked together on Luke Cage. And so we had a good working relationship. And when we got to that episode, it was going to be a part of a larger, present day, past, middle passage time. And they just said, just go for it. Just make this episode that. Make it all about this particular time period and make it all about joy. And I was like, thank you, because there was so much that we got to do in terms of telling a different Western than you've pretty much seen told. Yep. And making a woman the hero of a Western in ways that you haven't seen, making a Native American woman a hero of the Western in ways that, if they have been seen, are rare, and just literally lean into this particular story. So I would say that, that was a great interface of friends, colleagues, studio to production, and just everybody getting behind doing something a little different. And that's kind of how that particular episode came to be.
What do you think Wayne knows about the mineral that the audience doesn't know? Or is he figuring things out like as we're watching him figure things out?
I think he's figuring it out as we watch him figure it out. I think when he takes that leap, he has an idea. It's like the brain of an entrepreneur is to always see something different in the familiar, right? So when he gets to that point where his entire life has pretty much been disassembled, I think his brain goes, if this is what I think it is, maybe I can make something change from what I'm facing. And that's what makes him take the risk that he takes. But I think he's figuring it out as we see it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering who and when or who and what might be able to figure out how to manipulate the whole or the mineral to its will rather than letting the whole dictate where someone ends up.
I think someone does, because even if you look at season 1 and you think about the whole by 9 story or snippets, and then that moment that you have in the future in episode 2 of season 1, when you see it looking all industrial, it looks like something out of Road Warrior. I think somebody has figured out how to harness this thing that we haven't come to know yet. But I think that is connected to when Royal is in the scientist's office and he turns around and he sees the picture where she's standing in front of a by 9. It's a tanker, I think, or something, But I think, yes, that connective tissue is there and someone's going to do it. And I think, when you look into that flash forward, Autumn is going to be very relevant in that particular story. It's just getting to that part. It's deciding when you're going to get to that point.
Well, also the thing that, for me, one of the really interesting things you sort of ponder or open the door on is the fact that Perry has gone back in time and has saved Wayne's son's life.
Yep.
And the question becomes for me, is he off on an alt timeline, or is the repercussions of what he did eventually going to go forward, like what happened with Wayne when he got punched?
It's funny because I always think of the scene in Endgame when they're discussing time travel, and Paul Rudd goes, "Wait, so hot tub time machine, Back to the Future?" Is like, no, it's like we have no full explanation of what time is and what it can do and what that portal is, and I keep, one of the things that I kept going back to with The Room is, Kronos is mentioned. Is he real? Is he a part of this? Is there a way where one person can go into this time, this different time, and do something, and it does have an effect, but someone else can go and do something and it doesn't? It's like, is this attached to where they're supposed to be emotionally or where they are mentally? And it's an open-ended thing, because there's a world where if Perry is on an alternate timeline, if he jumps back into that hole, he can end up back in his timeline. So there's you really can't posit what that's going to do until you actualize it.
Well, there's something else, which is that in episode 1 of season 3, you could have, I forget this other son's name, getting killed by Perry in another way. So like time ultimately will always push certain focal points together, right, even if it's not at the exact moment.
Right. And there's because going by what you're saying, there's also a world where he's in that timeline and realizes that he might be stuck in that timeline unless the thing that set him off happens again.
That's the thing about the show, is that you're opening up a lot of stuff. And, then especially the end of season 3. Do you think that Wayne, so do you know where Wayne, when he jumps in the hole, do you know where he's going to end up? Or are you sort of like, it's all on the whiteboard right now and we'll figure it out?
It's definitely on the whiteboard of my brain. I have a sneaking suspicion that he thinks backwards and forwards. If I go backwards, I'm going to do X. If I go forward, I'm going to do Y. And so I know where I think he's going. I just haven't shared it with anybody. It's like, I worked on Daybreak, and Paul Spashevsky said, "Yeah, I know how it ends. I'm not telling you." That's what he used to tell us as the writers. And so we were just like, oh, that's cool, because you're going to be able to course correct us in what we are a part of, and then if there's another season, or if there's a one-off where you do solve it, you have that all figured out. So I have Paul Spashevsky brain.
If Prime Video decides that they want to make a season 3 and have you involved, how quickly how much do you sort of have in your brain about season 3? And how much is it sort of like, I'm always curious, like how long do you think it would take in the writer's room and bringing everyone back to get the scripts done to, you know what I mean?
The writer's room for season 2 was 24 weeks. So, if there's a shot, then it would take the natural course of gathering writers, getting in the writer's room, throwing ideas back and forth, and the clock would be ticking right away, because, we would want to kind of keep it in motion, and then, no pun intended, I promise you, time will do what it does.
Well, listen, I really think fans are going to dig season 2, and I'm out of time. Otherwise, I'd ask you more stuff. Listen, great job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That means a lot, because I watch you a lot.
I get that at the end of interviews sometimes. They're like, "I'm glad you liked it." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
and I've seen your interviews with Josh and even the Dune 2 thing. You were like, wait a minute, so about outer range.
yeah, no, but in all seriousness, I really enjoyed season 2 because it embraced the whole and it embraced the more of the sci-fi and what it can offer. And that was my complaint with season 1 is I think it should have embraced more of the whole, and I was sort of waiting for it to do that.
Yeah, I feel that when you're creating a show like that and you don't have, IP or that kind of stuff, there are certain things that you will desire to aim at, and other things will take over. I just think that that's the nature of what we do in television. So knowing that they didn't gave us a lot of runway to do that.